We are live. Welcome to bothendsofthecourt.com New Year's podcast. I'm Dude LeBron,
Dude, Kobe?
and we're here to talk about basketball that happened this year and what we're going to expect for this next year.
Yep.
So, to start it off, we have a quick question. Should the NBA count hockey assists?
No.
Why?
Well, I think that, first of all, it's a hockey assist. And in hockey, they score like 3 points. And so it's really, really important to be the setup guy. In basketball, where you're scoring 100 plus points a game, I think that all a hockey assist would do is inflate offensive players' egos even more. Look how many because if you're in a system where the ball moves like crazy, that doesn't necessarily make your offense more efficient, but you will get more hockey assists.
Okay.
There are just systems where assists happen more. OKC is not one of them, but they have a killer offense. Mm-hmm. And so would you say, oh, Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook are terrible at their position because random other small forward and guard combo has way more hockey assists? It's just to me, all it would measure is the system that team uses, and that's it. It wouldn't help you show what players are doing on the court to help their team.
Okay. Yeah, and I think this came about because we were talking about the Spurs, and we were looking at Kawhi Leonard, and we noticed that he only had like 2.5 assists for the season,
Per game.
And I'm like, how is that guy, potential MVP candidate, only having 2.5 assists? And I think if we counted hockey assists, we might see Kawhi have more of that because the Spurs are more of a team. I guess that's the word. They're a team.
Yeah.
So we would be able to understand more of his role in how the offense scores if we had hockey assists.
Yeah.
And obviously OKC, they don't care because you just pass it to Durant or Westbrook.
Which, I'll deviate a little from our course here. Is that disappointing to you? They brought in a new coach in Billy Donovan specifically to breathe some life and creativity into the offense that they decided Brooks wasn't giving them.
Uh-huh.
And it is the exact same thing. And it still is very, very, very good because Durant and Westbrook are that good. But is that strange to you to fire a coach that the players liked and respected just for one change to happen and then it hasn't even sort of happened?
Yeah, my view on coaches in the NBA is very weird because, Luke Walton, he won Coach of the Month, but did he really? I mean, it's the players.
Yeah.
Even Blatt, you can give him credit, but you look at LeBron and you're like, yeah, he's kind of the coach. He's the one that runs the team. You look at OKC, it's two guys that run the team, Durant and Westbrook.
Yeah.
I mean, you can put Spoelstra in there, and he might win Coach of the Year, but was he really Coach of the Year, or is it just your players playing the way that they
Again,
play?
I would say that depends on the system that is being used, because, you might have a coach like Popovich who is very hands-on. He is not afraid to discipline or scream at or almost beat to death any of his players, even a 40-year-old Tim Duncan who's been a superstar his whole life. It doesn't matter who you are, Popovich will come down on you. To me, if the players can handle that, that makes the coach very, very important.
Right.
He is telling them, I need you to do more of this, and if you don't, I will sit you down.
Yeah, I just don't think that the two coaches for the OKC really had that kind of stuff, so the players took over, which is why the coaches are weird. You either have a really good one, and you can tell, or you just have a system in place because of the players' culture, and that's how you guys play. LeBron, if he was on the Spurs, you would see him play completely different.
Oh, yeah.
If you put him on any other team, you'd see him play like LeBron. I mean,
and another thing, I don't mean to take away from coaches and more than we already have, but I think that it's also a huge piece of how deep is your team. Because if you put LeBron on the Warriors, his scoring would go down. His efficiency would skyrocket because you can't double team him on that team. But his numbers across the board would go down. His minutes per game would go down.
And it's funny because you would say that he's a good player.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, he'd still be an MVP candidate, but his what he was doing on the court would be totally different, and should be. I mean, you'd be an idiot to try and dominate the ball the way he sometimes does in Cleveland if you had a team that deep. And credit to him, he's done an excellent job making sure on his own sometimes that Kevin Love stays featured on the offense so that they continue to be a dynamic offense that's dangerous all over the floor. And that's on him. I don't think that was the coach. I really don't. I think LeBron was like, this is what we need to do. It will make our team better, and it will make our teammate happier.
Yep. So going back to hockey assists, I think they should, mainly because of our NBA analytic culture. We have ball cams. I think it would just be one more thing to add to our benefit. And only some of the players, I think, would be affected by the ego of hockey assists.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, yeah, you did get the assist, but you did help.
You'd see some funny fast breaks. You already do sometimes, and the guy's running down the court, he's an open layup, and he just turns and
oh my God,
tosses it to the guy behind him. And I'm like, you'd see people trying to get the hockey assist, and they just pass. They're under the basket all by themselves. You shoot it. It'd be funny.
This hashtag Spurs. All right, so going into next year, we're going to talk about resolutions for teams. And our first resolution is healthy. Who needs to be healthy?
Well, I know the Cavs just got all their manpower back, but they're not up to full strength, so that's a form of getting healthy. They must have Kyrie Irving in order to even have a chance at the title. They have to. They're not deep enough to otherwise.
And it's odd with the Cavs because they're only 2 games out, or 3 games out of being in 9th place in the East.
Yeah.
And they're number 1.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the Cavs haven't gotten worse.
No.
It's just that the rest of the East decided to step up their game in a major way.
So for the Cavs, I think time management will keep them healthy.
Yeah.
And you still have to keep your wins up because you're only 4 games ahead of being out of the playoffs.
Which is berserk.
And then the Jazz. Sorry, Alec Burks. You're like one of my favorite players on that team.
And Stifle Tower is still out. They've got a couple guys out.
And they're still in 8th place.
Yeah. Under 500, but in 8th place. But no, definitely the Jazz. They were projected to be a playoff team, and they are right now, but they've got to get healthy. And it sucks that he's out for a season, but
what can you do?
Yep.
So the Warriors, they need to stay healthy.
Get Barnes back.
And get Barnes healthy.
They will theoretically get better when Barnes comes back. That's ridiculous.
But at what cost? Like, you almost need to do the same time management as the Cavs. You're 29 wins. You're 17 games ahead of like 8th place or something. I mean, either go for the record or go for the championship. What do you want?
So are you saying play your starters significantly less minutes, do like a Spurs type thing?
Yeah, and if you do lose the lead in the 4th quarter, just lose the game.
Yeah.
Like, don't put Curry back and Thompson back, because remember how Thompson got hurt that one time, just going back in just to win a game?
The worry is there's teams like the Spurs that once they hit the playoffs, they don't give a crap about home court.
Right.
They are so experienced, they don't even hear the difference. They don't care. And so the Warriors, who are younger, have less... I know they just won a championship. I get that. But they are much younger, much less experienced, way less playoff experience, less coaching experience, less experience across the board. Even though their confidence is sky high, it is much more important for the Warriors to get home court than it is for the Spurs. And the Spurs are only 5 games back of them. That's what's so crazy. And everyone's talking about this. I won't beat a dead horse, but they have this historic winning streak, and they're only 5 games ahead of the Spurs. That's just wrong.
That's bad.
And the Spurs could catch up a full game here in January when they play.
Right.
And so the Spurs aren't worried, and they're resting all their guys, and they're still having this incredible winning percentage. And the Warriors, to me, have to have home court advantage in the playoffs. They have to. I know that people think they're so much more talented than everybody else, but the Cavs took it to them last year in the finals, and the Warriors won.
And they just took it to them again.
And they just took it to them again in Golden State. I just think that the Spurs don't care about home court advantage. Everyone else does, including the Cavs.
Fair enough. And then the Clippers need to get healthy.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Blake Griffin.
Yeah. Ouch. That sounds like a painful injury, too, the quadricep.
And they're still 4th. I mean, I still see them in the playoffs. It's just You just need to maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
So our next resolution is win, win, win. And who are we talking about? The people that lose badly.
The Sixers
and Lakers.
Yeah.
Not much else to say.
No, both
Except
of them
you
have...
are on historic loss record, which is odd, isn't it? The Warriors are on a historic pace to win.
Yep.
The Sixers are on a historic pace to lose.
Yep.
In the same year.
I gotta talk about Okafor for a second.
Go for it.
Man, I was just watching some of his games and stuff, and some of his highlights and things like that. He looks like a veteran on offense, and his defense doesn't look nearly as bad as the projections were for him. They were like, he's going to be all offense, no defense.
Right.
And his defense is rusty. Rusty's the wrong word. It's inexperienced. But he looks fine. He moves his feet well. He's shown a good eye for the ball when he's trying to go for shot blocks and stuff. I think he'll be just fine. He'll never be like Towns or,
right.
One of those stoppers, a Dwight Howard type guy with the huge body and athleticism. But his offense is so good. He looks like a more mobile DeMarcus Cousins on offense. Not as strong and powerful yet, but really, really good on offense. And so I just wanted to mention that. And so, yeah, the Sixers have major, huge issues, but there's a little star shining through the fog of horror.
They might get better.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, you
someday.
have to, right?
You would think so.
I mean, you can't get worse. Okay.
Yep.
So the next resolution is building chemistry. And we're talking about the Cavs, because you've had injuries and you just need to get back to where you were last year.
Right, not any personnel problems, just getting all your guys on the same page because they haven't been on the floor together.
Mm-hmm. But the Rockets, they've kind of been building it
because
they're now back in the playoffs.
They are. They're at 500, they're fine. They're still struggling on the road, but so are the Cavs, and no one's worried about them.
It's just odd because it seems like whichever team Howard's on, either they're super fun together or they're just super bad together.
Yeah.
And I think is kind of in a limbo right now with, is he going to continue to mesh with this team and perform like the all-star we know he can? Or is he going to just be lazy still?
I don't know. I don't know him. I've always enjoyed watching him play.
Yes.
But there have been so many people close to basketball, not just random stupid fans.
Right. Oh.
but people who have said that for whatever reason, even though he's a fun-loving guy, he may not be the best in a locker room. And he's gotten more serious. He's taken on some more leadership roles, and he's playing well. And he's a monster in the playoffs, especially. Yeah. He has been their best player in the playoffs since he's been on that team. And I'm sorry, James Harden, is their best player, but in the playoffs, Dwight has performed. He's been a killer, and Harden has not.
Yeah, it's odd.
Which is kind of weird. But I don't know. They do need to work on chemistry. And last year, you'd see these weird quotes about how, James Harden would be like, yeah, me and Dwight are the leaders on this team and everyone else is a role player. And I'm like, even if that were true, which it's not, how can you think that you can say that and not piss off your teammates?
That's why they got to build that chemistry.
Yeah. So definitely, Suns, they're a wreck.
They're self-collapsing, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And they just fired some coaches, and now Hornacek is up next.
Yep. Looks like. Well, we'll see. Kings.
That's just a weird team.
Yeah.
And they win, and then they lose bad, and then they win, they lose bad, and you're like, where's the problem? Rondo's been playing good.
He's been playing great, and when Cousins is healthy, he's been playing great. I think Rudy Gay is overrated at this point in his career. They need a legitimate wing scorer, and he's not it.
You just have some super big personalities on that team, and I think they're still trying to mesh it together. I can see that team being really good. They just got to get better together.
Definitely.
And then the Wizards.
Ugh.
Like,
Wall.
Enough said.
It seemed like Wall was starting to string together some really good point guard type games to help his team get a cohesive offense going and everything, and it still doesn't seem like it's helped a lot. He's he's looking to pass, break into the paint so that the defense collapses and get guys opportunities. He's doing all that stuff now, which he didn't really seem to be doing much at the beginning of the season, and yet their record is bad. And I don't know what's going on with them because their talent is exactly the same as it was last year, if not better from internal development. And they lost Pierce.
It's odd because usually when you have like two good guards, it's hard to stop that team.
Yeah.
Because the other team doesn't have two good defensive guards, and like you see Curry, and the Warriors, like those two guards could win a championship, regardless of who they have on their team.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps that they have a team. But the Wizards, they just it's just weird.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I thought that they were built as an excellent team.
You picked them as one of the best teams in
I did?
in the East coming out.
And hasn't happened for me.
So resolution get better.
Yeah, and maybe it is just a chemistry issue. Last resolution, which teams need to have the resolution to aim for some home court advantage in the playoffs, and which teams don't? Some
good playoff positioning.
Yeah.
Spurs are out. I mean, obviously they don't need that resolution because of what you said earlier. They're just they could be the 8th seed and win.
Yeah, they could.
But the Cavs, they're awesome at home, and they're awful. Well, not awful. They're 50% on the road.
They're mediocre on the road.
So, and obviously one of those was against the Warriors, but still, it's on the road that they're struggling.
Right.
Like their home is amazing, like 14-1.
Yep.
So they need to keep home court advantage, and especially with the East only being 4 games out of the playoffs, those games matter.
Yeah.
So you have to stay in the top.
And I think that Cleveland is the favorite in the East to get to the finals by I think they are the favorite.
Okay.
If they didn't have home court advantage in the East, if Indiana or the Bulls or the Heat had a better record than them at the end of the season, I still would call the Cavs the favorites in the East, but not nearly as much as if they had home court advantage.
What about the Hawks?
They don't count. They're not a thing in my brain.
Last year.
But
last year.
If the Cavs do not have home court advantage against Golden State or the Spurs or OKC, especially those first two though, they're going down.
Okay.
Even as good as they are, and they are spectacular, they cannot win without home court advantage against those two teams. I do not think.
So if they did, like let's say they won out all their games from now and stole home court from the Warriors, you think that they might have a better chance?
Definitely.
Okay.
Against the Warriors, not the Spurs. I don't think the Spurs care at all.
Okay.
They will. The Spurs are my favorites to win the championship.
Okay.
So that's my bias.
But
I guess.
one extra game at home against the Spurs would help.
It would help.
Okay.
It would help. But I still would pick the Spurs. I think if for some crazy reason if the Cavs had a better record than the Warriors, I'd pick the Cavs.
Okay.
I really would, and I know the Warriors have looked like
especially
unbeatable.
with how they just barely played.
Yeah, exactly. But I would pick the Spurs over anybody.
Okay. Another team that needs it would be the Bulls.
Yes.
They feed off of their fans, and they're just a team that I don't think is dynamic enough to win a best of 7 series away.
Right, and they're under 500 on the road, and they're spectacular at home.
Right.
So you're right. Definitely them.
OKC, another team that is awesome, except on the road. In fact, they've lost 8 games against the East, and they've only lost 10 games total.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Ooh. That's crazy.
Ooh. They don't travel well.
They don't travel well.
They're getting old.
OKC needs home court. And the last team is the Rockets.
Oh, yeah. They even in the middle of their worst part of their struggles, and I think they are still struggling somewhat, but they've started to win some of the more winnable games like they're supposed to and things, but they were so bad on the road for most of the season so far. They've had a couple of decent road wins, but they just, if they are going to be a title contender, which right now they're not, but they have the talent to be, if they're going to even pretend to be a title contender, though, they have to get a better record so that they can have a couple of rounds of home court advantage.
Okay. So that's our New Year's resolution for the teams in the NBA. If you think that we missed something, please leave a comment in the description below. I think that's it, though.
That's
right?
all we've got.
All right, so I'm Dude LeBron.
Dude Kobe.
And this is BothEndsOfTheCourt.com.